Good morning, everyone, my fellow historical materialists, my panelists, and our chair. I'm sorry I couldn't attend the conference in person for visa reasons not unrelated to the recent US travel ban. And I thank the organizers for allowing me to participate in this conference using this mediation. In any case, it's such a pleasure to be part of a historical materialism conference. During the discussion segment, I hope I'll be able to tell you, if time permitted, or you cared to know, about the broader study in which my interpretation of Marx's 18th Brumaire finds its key place, that is, the fate of autonomous form under the conditions of bourgeois society. This morning my argument is that there is a strict antinomy in Marx's 18th Brumaire with regard to the bourgeois republic, its form, its political form, under capitalism, which manifests itself only politically, and to which Marx seems to me to suggest a resolution. I use some diagrams to make my point more clear by way of finding a formal operation in the massive amount of names, dates, and events in the complex chronicle that Marx offers. Again, I'm looking forward to a discussion focused more on the political, practical implications of what Marx, I think, does in his short book. Marx offers a tripartite periodization of the life of the Second Republic in France, its process of being constituted, its decline, and its ultimate fall. The first part is called the prologue, that is the February days in 1848, when the revolution took place in Paris mainly, and the Republic was proclaimed by the provisional government that had been immediately set up. These were days of harmony of all classes, as Marx says, of fraternity and unity. The second part or period is called the Constituent period, when the National Assembly was created with 950 members tasked with drafting the Constitution and preparing the presidential election. And the third part is the Constituted period, when the major elements of the Republic are in place. It has a president, a legislative assembly, and it is fully settled now. Now, apart from the prologue, Marx offers sub-periods or subdivisions for each main period, the constituent and the constituted periods, so that as we proceed, the division increases. That is, we have more parts. This gives a schematic view, as you see, of the mode of presentation of Marx, in which the falling apart of the Republic finds expression in the logic of division in the narrative. On the other hand, there are two standpoints that can be discerned in the 18th Brumaire in my reading. One standpoint belongs to the Republic as a self-sufficient, autonomous body politic, as you see in the circle. Here, Marx's account is widely political in the sense that it lays down the complex acts and the relationships between the actors on the political scene throughout the epoch. The standpoint is internal to the life of the Republic. This is not the only standpoint, however. The second standpoint is external to the Republic, that is, to the circle, offering an account of the forces or conditions that precede the Republic and make it possible, that is, they constitute the context of the arising of the Republic. If the circle gives us the political form, then the triangle, as you see, gives us its social content. This content has capital, the centralized state, and the smallholding peasantry as its three sides. All three are more or less traced back by Marx to the late 18th century, and the First French Revolution. It is forces that all precede the rise of the Republic. We can, of course, swipe the circle and the triangle and still get the same relation of one limiting or conditioning the other. Now there is another double standpoint in the pamphlet too, this time rhetorically. From the standpoint of the inner life of the Republic, from the circle, the situation is naive. The revolutionaries want to create a body politic that claims to represent all the people, all the members of the people, both in terms of legal equality and for some that is socialist material equality. That's why the socialists would call it a social republic, a concept that Marx was fond of, at least for a while. However, from the standpoint of the triangle of the forces preceding the republic, we have an irony. The claim of the republic to represent all the people is seen as doomed from this standpoint. The republic, as Marx repeatedly states, represents the rule of one class over all others. It was the fittest form for the joint rule of the competing fractions of big bourgeoisie, the landed property, industry, and finance. It was the alliance of the ever more powerful and independent state since the First French Revolution and the small-holding peasants that empowered Louis Bonaparte eventually. And it was the alliance of the state and capital in terms of taxation that frustrated the peasantry with their small chunks of lands, as well as the urban workers. There is yet another double standpoint in the book, this time in terms of modality, temporal modality. The standpoint of the Republic, the internal standpoint, is narrated in the present modality. So, can say the Republic is. While the external, the capital state, peasantry standpoint is narrated in the past or perfect present or present perfect tense, so that we can say the triangle or these forces have been in place. And finally, in more abstract terms, we have first the standpoint that gives us the existent or presupposed presence of the Republic. This is again internal. While the other standpoint gives us the presuppositions of the Republic, or its genesis, or becoming. Think of the triangle. And my reading, considering this double standpoint on various levels that I mentioned, is essential to a proper understanding of Marx's operation in 18th Brumaire. Before getting to the antinomy that I believe this generates, I'd like to resort to an analogy with Marx's later works on the form of capital, on analyzing the capital. A key question in Marx's mature writings after the 18th Brumaire is how to analyze the capitalist mode of production. I think this question gives rise to the double character of the capital analysis. On the one hand, we can simply start with considering the emergence of capital out of the agrarian revolution, the relations of private property, its laws, and most importantly, the rise of wage labor. So here we have the becoming of capital, which is a historical contingent process. On the other hand, however, we can start with the fully settled form of capital. Here we have the organic form of the fully, again, settled capitalist mode of production. Now, from which are we to take our point of departure? In Capital Volume 1, Marx starts with the latter, of course. In Grundrisse, however, he makes this very question into into his problematic, and he makes it explicit. This passage from Grundrisse, I guess, is quite helpful. Marx writes, presuppositions which originally appeared as conditions of its becoming, that is, capital's becoming, and hence could not spring from its action as capital, now, that is, in the present, or in the present tense of the analyzer, appear as results of its own realization, reality, as posited by it, not as conditions of its arising, Entstehen, but as results of its presence or Dasein. We saw that a similar problematic or a similar double question was at work in the 18th Brumaire. So here, in the 18th Brumaire, we start first with the republic as an already proclaimed political form. So we deal with the existence of the presupposed republic. And then Marx proceeds to analyzing or accounting for its becoming, as was shown in the triangle. So here we deal with the presuppositions of the existing republic, again, the internal and external standpoint. So we have the circle of presupposed republic, and then the becoming of the republic in the form of this line. If we accept this analogy of the republic and capital analysis, then I think this leads to an antinomy in the 18th Brumaire. That is, the conflict between two equally valid views on the same object. There is an antinomy because the analogy to the capital form stops here. If, according to Marx, the capital can take possession of its own presuppositions in its organic form, the republic fails to do so. The republic as a form does not generate the same organic unity as capital. Its presuppositions, the triangle discussed before, returns to it as its internal conflicts, as its contradictory content, as a social content full of conflicts. To make this point, let's formulate the antinomy in its classic format first. The thesis side of the antinomy states that the republic proclaims itself as a self-determining body politic that represents all the people. The antithesis side of the antinomy states that the republic is determined by capital and thus represents the rule of one class over all the others. So we see a conflict between two sides, and each view, each proposition can be taken to be valid on its own terms, from the perspective of the revolutionaries and from the perspective of the, say, the one who analyzes the situation from a certain vantage point. This is no place for it, but just in passing, in my study I understand the concept of antinomy since Kant as a conflict between the validity of a structure on its own terms and its conditions of possibility, so that both are equally and self-sufficiently compelling or valid. Here the antinomy would vanish if we set aside Marx's political account of the life of the Republic naively, that is, of its making, decline, conflicts, and fall. If Marx had simply and ironically scolded the delusional aspirations of the revolutionaries, there would have arisen no antinomy between the form of the Republic and its conditions of possibility or of its content. Yet Marx does not settle for an unresolved antinomy either. believe there is a standpoint in 18th Brumaire that refers to the possibility for a resolution. But capitalism at the same time generates a contradictory political form in which the conditions of possibility become those of impossibility. Of course, this is a big riddle for modern politics from a Marxist perspective. That is, it's a riddle that is generated by Marxist insight without settling for any one-sided view of a political form such as modern republic. Now, antinomy itself manifests itself in political conflicts. And for this reason, Marx's narrative had to be political, not merely economic. This is how I believe we should understand the overwhelming political chronicle of the 18th Brumaire. If there is an antinomy, then there must be a resolution, at least we feel the need. Marx's resolution to this antinomy would require bringing together the two standpoints noted above, in temporal, rhetorical, philosophical senses. I let you read it for yourself. And as Marx states before in The Poverty of Philosophy, there is no political movement that would not simultaneously also be a social movement. So it is imperative for a struggle to aim both at the political form and its social content. So the relation between the form and content, the presupposed body politic and its historical presuppositions is crucial. To return to our schema, we need a force, a standpoint, a modality that can preserve the promise of the republic, representing all the people, political representation proper beyond the conditions of the triangle or the big circle. The triangle of capital, the state, and a social agent that is reactionary. This would look like a breaking of the circle, which would give us something like this. It's a clumsy drawing, but gives us the sense. This breaking alludes to the modality of the future, and its agent is proletariat. I conclude with this remark by Claude Lefort on the peculiar, I'd say, antinomian status of the proletariat as the agent of resolution. I like the fact that the quote ends, and I hope to talk with the word imagination.